Hello, everybody. Welcome. I realized I had been talking for a minute and I hadn't gone live yet. And I was talking to nobody, um, which was unfortunate. Um, so, so today we're kind of following up on where we left off last week with our Craig. Craig the log bug, the tree bug. So what we're going to be doing is going through the the kind of refining process that I do to clean things up and go from some sketches and some concepts to some pretty cool looking art that you can like show someone, or if you're doing official like viz dev for a project, submit to the visual director, whichever director, the producers, whoever's in charge of that part for you. So what we're gonna do is first I'm gonna flip my canvas just to make sure that things look good on all ends. Okay, we're gonna flip back and I'm just gonna make myself a new layer for the inks. Okay, I'm gonna label this because one of the things that makes art hard is when you don't know what layer you're on. um, but yeah, so as a refresher, this creature was generated using my creature design inspo table, and it is a combination of 4 specific traits. So the table like includes a category for the like diet, the environment, the what's the other ones? The like animal clades that it's taking inspiration from, and the size of the creature. So this guy is a scavenger. He is elephant sized and lives in the swamp and is a combination of arthropod and bird traits. So that's him, and we've been calling him Craig. Um, while nobody is really here yet, I'm gonna make a little post on my YouTube super fast on the community, just so that we can see if more people will show up. I know it usually takes a sec. Um, so yeah, we'll see. How are you guys doing? The two of you I have in the chat. It is Craig o'clock. Okay. I'm gonna put the link right there and grab. Menu. Hopefully that works. Okay. Craig Gaming. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be our Craig finale. So I've lowered the opacity on the sketch layer if you guys can see it at all. I don't know. It's at 17% opacity. So this is where we left Craig last time, right? We kind of settled on the design, and now we're going into the detail work and more solidifying some things. So we're starting just playing with the head. I don't like that line as much, so we're gonna make it a bit more convex as opposed to concave. Do you know what the word concave always makes me think of? There is a dinosaur that I love called Concavenator, is probably the best way to pronounce it. But growing up, I was pronounced it Concavenator, and it's we're already we are 5 minutes in and we're already on a tangent. But it's a predatory dinosaur from Spain that has a super strange like crest apparatus right above its hip, and it's kind of sick. I kind of love it. Let's throw it into the clip studio and see if people appreciate, if it'll work. You gonna hello? There it is. Oh, he's little. But yeah. So he's got this like shark fin on its back, and I love it. Are there any dinosaurs I don't love? That's a great question. I probably not. There are times where I'm like, I don't care about that one as much, but I'm trying to think. I mean, I I just love dinosaurs. It's exciting categorically, you know? Um, but yeah, anyway, that's what I think of when I think of concave. So we're gonna keep working on Craig. So these guys right here are little pincery guys that he uses to pick up bits of detritus and pop them in his mouth. Now, if you guys remember, one of the things that it is a wonky bird that we kind of settled on with Craig's like ecological niche is that less of like a scavenger in the way that we think of like with vultures, and more of a detritivore like we have with like isopods and mushrooms. And I was thinking about that earlier, and I was wondering, is like, I wonder if it'd be a cool idea to play with implementing some like mushroom vibes into the oh, Becca just promoted me on the Discord. I love her so much. Anyway, the what was I saying? Oh, so Craig, while he does eat carrion, right, also feeds on the rotting and decaying plant material in the swamp, because there's a lot of that, and enough to sustain this big old elephant-sized boy or girl or non-bear. You know, being an arthropod bird thing, I think gender doesn't really apply in the same way, especially if we lean into the fungi vibes, because boy howdy, that's a whole can of worms. We're gonna give Craig 4 nostrils, I think. It's kind of split nostril, maybe something that can like aim. Gender fluid, funky creature. I mean, yeah. Well, there's so many like even relatively, in the like within vertebrates, right? So many animals that in times of stress can change like their biological sex and clone themselves essentially. Like there's plenty of lizards and snakes that do that, which is wild. So that can totally be like a part of Craig's anatomy. Someone mentioned like having eyes that close. I think that's really fun, especially for like an invertebrate kind of. Yeah, clownfish are great examples of that. I think you're exactly right with that. I'm not entirely sure. I am not a fish expert. Um, they're not my hyperfishation. Aha! I'm very funny. Yeah, someone mentioned having like eyelids that like close vertically, like vertical eye slits on here. And I thought that was really a fun idea because, right, like arthropods don't have eyelids. They can't close their eyes. That's not how their eyes work. Um, but do you know who does? Birds. And this is a cool idea. And so we're going to do it. You know, I would love to see a remake of Nemo with accurately gender fluid clownfish. I think that would be incredible. I'm gonna change these. I think they look a little too structured and not organic enough. You know, I like this row of eyes, but I'm gonna vary them in size a bit more and make them a little less round. Right? Kind of have a main eye and then a smaller eye, maybe. I don't know if that's it either. We're playing with eyeballs. Okay. Ooh, angled eyelids, but still vertical. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Is like maybe we like have the eyelids kind of work like this, where they're almost at like this 90-degree. Ooh, okay, that's something. The vertical slit is interesting because we usually only see vertical slits in predators, because what the vertical pupil enables is usually better night vision, but a lot better like motion tracking, remember, and a lot better like up and down, which is why, like, from what I understand, like a lot of small cats have vertical pupils because they're chasing birds and a lot of small prey that are moving very quick in a vertical space, right? They're chasing things up trees, they're chasing birds that are flying away. Um, and so like they're explicitly predatory, but like when you look like tigers, they don't have the vertical slit because they're not chasing hunting nearly as fast like small moving things in the vertical sphere. They're hunting all the other little guys, not little guys, big guys, deer, water buffalo, the crazy things that tigers hunt. You have eyelids or like lick the eyeballs. I almost kind of like the idea. So arthropods, right? When you look at like flies, you see them like rubbing their eyes and like rubbing their hands together. Part of that is like cleaning off their eyes. And so we've got these like little limbs here. We could even have just some little hairs that it uses to clean off its eyeballs, in its little mandibles right there. So yeah, okay. I think I know what I'm gonna do. I'm not sure I'm vibing with this slit pupil. It feels almost too like Jurassic Park with the oh yeah, because flying. I'm trying to think because birds ubiquitously have round pupils, if I remember correctly. Um but Craig is a good boy. Um Hi Becca. So what I'm thinking is maybe we kind of have these like slits that open up. And so instead of it being like slit people, we still have like these kind of compound eye situation going on. But instead of being round, they're in these like angled shapes to more specifically focus in different directions, maybe. Something like this. I don't know. Okay. Then we can take our eraser and come in and get some little like sparklies. Because, reflective eyes. Why is it kind of cute? Three types of venomous snakes that have vertical pupils. Okay. Yeah, so well, I know with snakes, specifically vipers have vertical pupils. Um, and colubrids, which are the generally non-venomous, and includes stuff like king snakes and rat snakes and corn snakes, have round pupils. And yeah, I don't know, but I don't think like cobras have the straight vertical pupils. But Creature scenario on Roblox. You know, I've never played Roblox. I think it was a little after my time. Well, no, it was around when I was in elementary school. I just thought it looked like Legos and it was trying to rip Lego off. And if there's one corporation I have any loyalty to, it's Lego. Especially when I was a kid. And so I did not understand what Roblox was, and I was like, another Lego ripoff, not in my good Christian household, etc., etc. Um, Shalon Devar, I love Stormlight Archive, and Shalon is one of my favorite characters. I relate to her some of the time. I don't relate to her all of the time, but also she's got a lot of conditions that I do not share. But yeah, so I'm wondering if I can even continue kind of the ridges of these eyes into like the ridges of. Ooh, that's an idea. More faux teeth almost to help break up. Yeah. Okay, that's a fun flow that we got going there. Big Ninja. Yeah. We love Ninjago. I don't have any of my Ninjago sets behind me. I think they're all in storage currently because being in a studio apartment, you don't have a ton of space to store and display Legos all the time. Why not three? Oh, that's an interesting idea. Three eyelids, so kind of make it like a triangular shape that like I feel like would have to work kind of like a camera lens, right? And then like when it closes, they like come together like that or something. That's kind of neat. It does feel like something you'd see in Scavenger's Reign. And I feel like I can make that work with this shape. We're going to zoom out. So one of the design principles that we mentioned in the last time that I want to be mindful of is the idea of like big, medium, and small shapes. And so one of the potential issues that we're running into with this head is the nostrils, where I split them, and all of the eyes are the same size, and that can cause some confusion, right, when you're looking at it. So I'm wondering if I want to bring the nostrils together, just have some big old nostrils, because that'll help differentiate them from the eyes a little bit. But I'm not sure. I'm not sold on it. We'll come back to that. That seems like a pretty good basic ink. I'm gonna come in and do more like textural details, and we're gonna just get some shadows going on in here, because I love me some big, chunky, inky shadows, a la Mike Mignola looking stuff. Um, if you want a masterclass in like simplicity and like design, read Hellboy or look at anything by Mike Mignola, because he does a wonderful job of like designing things so that you get all of the information that you need without losing the information, like without getting foggy or confusing, but without having too much information. It's really awesome. Okay, wait. I haven't followed the more current Ninjago stories for a sec. It's been a second. Um, I haven't read Wings of Fire, but I know about it. So yes, we shall return to the nostril question at a later stage of the debate. Okay. Lucci sent a photo in the Discord. Oh yeah, yeah, kind of like that. I think that'd be really cool, and I think we could have that in with them open. That is a cool idea. Part of me is like, I wonder if we do something like that. We're going to make a copy of this layer to experiment. If I do something like the kind of bigger aperture eye, I think I want there to be one bigger eye, right? And then like two smaller eyes, kind of like that. And then they can like, there can be like a, split in the shell that connects them all or something. Yeah, well, and that changing the shape too, making them more round to kind of fit with this like aperture look, also solves the issue of the confusion with the nostrils, right? Because like they're completely different shapes, and so like when they're closed, it would be like this. Yeah, that's the wrong way. And then like they could even be hard and protective. Oh, that could be interesting if they're like specifically like armored. Um, we get some like chitin looking textures up in there to protect the eye, which could make sense if like we're burrowing real deep into the wood of spiky things that could scratch the eye or sticking the head in some brambles. We'll come back to that. I feel like we got some solid options. We'll come back to that. So we're gonna come down here. We're gonna come to the wings and upper bot and like upper silhouette now. Because I think it's important to have a lot of this figured out, and also it's just the next step in the design. Now the question is that head too small? I kind of like the head being a little small comparatively. Now where were the wings connecting? Right behind this spike guy right there. Okay. Do. All right. That's something. Okay. We're gonna zoom out to reference this guy. This is a pretty steep curve right here that we're getting. And then this guy. So we're deviating a little bit from the undersketch, but that's okay. It's just there to be a guide. Okay, let's see. If people are looking for any like digital art tips, one thing that I've found really helpful, especially if you want to level up your line work game, and some of this is dependent on style and like the tools that you have, but I like to turn the stabilization off on my tools, like in the program, because I find that when the stabilization is on, my lines look really artificial, if that makes sense. And so I really like the more organic feel, which is great, especially designing creatures and stuff.
And some of us have shaky hands and can't do that.
Apparently, I'm privileged. I know that there's.
Hear what I just said.
Yeah, I don't know if people can. Becca just turned to me and said, "Well, some of us have shaky hands and can't do that." So, yeah. Oh, okay. So, yeah, I have this big. This is a really awesome brush. The pressure sensitivity on my tablet is such that I can get really, really small, like thin, fine lines and super big chunks. I have a pretty light hand when it comes to drawing, which I think I developed practicing with traditional like ink pens, and especially when I started practicing with a dip pen, because if we're using a dip pen, a lot of like the power will come from the pressure sensitivity. But yeah, so when I graduated, I invested in a like professional grade drawing tablet, because this is my job now. And so I use a Huion Canvas Pro 19, which has, I think they advertise 16,000 like degrees of pressure sensitivity, which is really nice. it's very much appreciated, and it does enable a lot of things. It's kind of standard for a lot of tablets now to have pressure sensitivity, even like the Wacom Intuos, the ones that don't have like the display as well, usually have pressure sensitivity built in as well, just because we have the technology, and it does a lot to make the art feel more dynamic and authentic. Like you don't get as you can get a lot more expressive, right, when you have pressure sensitivity than when you don't. And that is what enables me to, again, make my big chunky lines or my skinny little ones. I don't know. There's a little guy over here. And you know how I feel about little guys. We love them, but not that one. But yeah, so before this, I did everything on Microsoft Surface Pro 7, like 2019 tablet, and a stylus that I got in Amazon for $30. And that worked really well too, in the pressure sensitivity department. Not nearly as sensitive as my Huion, but also, again, this is, a $1,000 tablet, so it's going to be different, what you're using. But like if you have an iPad and an Apple Pencil, you can get a lot of pressure sensitivity with that as well. This has been Marcus ranting about pressure sensitivity in drawing tablets. It makes a big difference for me when I'm working. I know not everybody uses pressure sensitivity a ton in their practice or in their style, but I'm a big fan. I feel like it enables a lot more expressiveness. Oh, yeah. Well, it's a good rabbit hole to be pointed down. And so, wait, Richard, with the mouse from the '80s, was that like when you had the little dot in the middle of the keyboard that you moved around? Or am I thinking, are those more like '90s early laptops before we had trackpads? Because I know I've used like both really old mice and those little dots. The little dots are a nightmare to use, but at least they were to me in my 21st century Gen Z sensibilities. But yeah. Okay, the nub in the keyboard was '90s. That makes sense because I was like, I remember only on laptops, and those were not in the '80s. I say as if I was around then, as an authority on the latter half of the 20th century technologies. I mean, my dad was around, and he's a computer guy, so you know he had a bunch of old computers that I messed around with as a kid, and then like mice and stuff. So maybe there's something in that. But okay, so we're getting the top down. Do mechano-optical mouse with the rubberized steel ball. Oh, I know those guys. Yeah, the steel ball and roller. Yeah, I've also used one, and it was weird. But it is crazy. Like even I look back at when I started um doing digital art, like in high school. When I was in high school, a lot of the like drawing tablet capabilities, especially in like personal tablets for iPads and phones and stuff, was not there. And so like the idea that someone could have an iPad and make professional quality art was, a little mind-boggling, because I got a Wacom Intuos and it was wild, but I had to, look at the screen and not at my hand when I was drawing, and I never really got super great at using it. But I did do some things. I think the first thing I made that I liked was an old illustration of a Carnotaurus, surprising absolutely nobody. Um, but let me see if I have it on my Google Photos somewhere. I'm sure I do. Um, But yeah, it was this was when Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom was coming out, and they had unveiled the Carnotaurus, and I was like, I like Carnotaurus because I like Carnotaurus. As we already established, I don't think there are any dinosaurs I have negative opinions of. But also, like, it is kind of an odd thing that there are um, like so many negative opinions of like dinosaurs and animals and such. I listened to a podcast, the Terrible Lizards podcast with Dr. David Hone, um, which is great if you want to learn more dinosaurs. Um, but there was an episode where they're talking about like the fandom aspect to the paleo community and like the dinosaur fandom and how weird it is that like this branch of science has a fandom that operates like other fandoms do, which we don't see very often um, in a lot of cases. Like you don't necessarily have an astronomy fandom in the same way, right? You don't have people coming in being like, well, I think Kepler is way, way, way cooler than Vega, and here's why, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, that's just not something that happens. Whereas, like, in the paleo community, you have some people saying, come in and say, like, well, T-Rex could kill any of the other dinosaurs. It's the coolest one. Like, no, Spinosaurus would kill T-Rex, et cetera, et cetera. You know, these silly conversations. But it's just really interesting. Um, uh, yeah, be shocked. Well, I'm thinking next week I might do just a dinosaur stream where I'll do like a poll on my YouTube community and see which dinosaur people want me to draw. Because sometimes you gotta draw dinosaurs. You just gotta. Well, and like I don't know, I've talked to lots of people like sometimes like other artists or like peers from school, like I don't know what to draw and it's hard for me to know what to draw, and I'm like, I always know what to draw because if I don't know what to draw, it's just a dinosaur or a dragon, you know. It's always been a blessing, I think is the right word. I was about to say a curse, but I'm like, I don't think it's a curse to like always know what you want to draw. I'm looking up some stick bug wings because they got some real pretty ones with lots of fun segmentation going on. They're gorgeous wings, man. Oh, to be a stick bug with beautiful wings. Okay, I'm gonna just start by building up buff. Looking at these wings and their shape, I don't think at the scale we're working at, these would be super effective. I think they're too, like, they're big and you need big wings, but where they're so, like, deep almost, I feel like that's going to create drag that you don't need. Yeah, I would be surprised if any one of us could beat a Spinosaurus. Although, it is fun to think about just looking back throughout natural history. There is a lot to be said about humanity's ability to mess with big animals and completely ruin their lives. And by that, I mean hunt and kill them. Um, just, following our expansion in the Ice Age, megafauna did not do too well after we showed up. So it is interesting to think about how dinosaurs would fare against humans in reality. But okay, yeah. See, that looks like more like something that would actually be able to fly, right? Okay. Do. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 4. Sweet. I think that's a pretty good idea of the wings. All right, we're gonna look at these eyes again. I think I like the first ones. There's a flow that I'm really vibing with, and I can kind of bring this up, and then use this to kind of texture this little crest structure. That is not a crest, but okay, there we go. Yeah, alrighty. My perspective is bad. Uh-oh. Sometimes that happens, even to the best of us. Not implying that I am the best of us, but it is really reassuring sometimes, because like imposter syndrome is real, right? And like there are times where I'm like, I don't feel like I deserve to be like where I am, or I'm actually that skilled, or like I'm gonna find success, etc., etc., etc. And then sometimes I pick up a comic book, almost any comic book, and you can find a panel that just looks bad, Like I've deduced that the single greatest like common denominator between all books, like comics that get published and are successful, is that they are finished, that they are made. Nobody publishes a comic that isn't made, but people publish ones that are. So anyway, okay. I'm gonna clean up these wings just a little bit, really like bring in the shape of the individual chunks to the broader silhouette. And then we can get onto the bigger guy. And hopefully I don't spend too long inking. Inking is my favorite process, like part of the process. I love doing my line work. And sometimes I do get carried away and take too long on it. And then I end up spending all my time doing my line work and not doing the other stuff that I need to do for like a comic page or a design. But what's great about my current job, doing turnarounds and toy designs, is that I don't have to do anything but line work for those, because I'm not doing the paint or colors. I might, when we get to the point that we need to figure that out for the company. They haven't asked me to, so I'm perfectly content to be doing what I'm doing. But yeah, so we're just adding some things. A lot of this is just going to be me doing my stuff. I don't know that there's as much to talk about during this part of the process compared to the original like ideation, sketching, and design part, because right now we're just making it look pretty more than anything, right? We figured out the design and we're just nailing down specifics and making it look nice, which is a lot of fun for me. But I don't know if it's as fun to watch. I certainly have less to say about it, but that's okay. All right, we're gonna have a little spiky do coming up there. Okay, we are cooking. We got the kind of bark texture. So someone mentioned eventually like designing a thing that hunts Craigs. We got to come up with a better name for the creature itself. This individual can be Craig, but like the species, it could be like a Rotwalker or something. That sounds like an Elden Ring boss, Gorthog the Rotwalker. But Craigite. Let's see, genus, species name, Craigian, Craigsoni, Craigus. That could be the scientific name. But yeah, alrighty. That's looking nice. We got some fun lines and shapes coming in here. We're gonna build some of these up. Add some, dimensionality to the shell shape. Woohoo! Okay. Does anybody have any like color requests? We're not quite to the coloring stage yet. But once I get to the like detail inks, it'll go real quick. This is like the most time consuming part. So I'm thinking we'd probably want like swamp camouflage, right? Like that makes sense. But I feel like there's room for some fun display colors. So like, I don't know, there aren't really like big display structures, are there? That don't feel like they're made for camouflage. I guess we got the tail. We'll make the tail something fun. It could be like, there we go, big juicy claw. Ooh, that reminded me of crab claws. I love crab. It tastes delicious. And those are some big juicy claws. I really like doing arthropods because you can just get some really really fun like swoopy shapes and lines going in the limbs, and no one's the wiser because arthropods have a lot of those fun flowy shapes going on. Hello, is that dinner for me?
Probably won't want to eat it on stream.
I probably won't want to eat it on stream, but it looks incredible. I love my wife, guys. Oh, when we were out thrifting, every time we drove past a restaurant, I was like, wow, you're hungry when you drive past Del Taco, and you're like, Del Taco. I haven't been to Del Taco since I was like 9 years old, but the dinner, I can show you guys dinner. I think looks like mac and cheese and some pork and some potatoes. It's delicious. I don't want to dump it on my computer, but there's dinner that I will partake in after stream. But okay, we got the silly toes. Craig's like a hobbit. With the hairy feet. Okay. I feel like I keep saying K a lot. I feel like I'm running out of things to say about Craig because again, I'm mostly just cleaning things up. We are going to get to like the technique I use to color things quickly, which is really nice because I have had a lot of people asking me about that. Because I can like flatten a whole like complicated comic page in like an hour or so, which is really, really nice because that can take off, like I feel like the average comic page colors take a lot longer than that. So who knows? But yeah, okay, so we're getting these kind of floofy feet, right, for walking in the swamp. The swamp feet. That sounds like a medical condition. If anybody knows if swamp foot is an actual like condition, let me know. Because I feel like it sounds like it could be, Like you stepped in the swamp one too many times. And that's what you get. Never mess with the swamp. Okay. Do. Trench feet. Ah, that's what I was thinking of. Okay. Get some good sound effects going. It's not art if you're not making sound effects. Okay, let's compare that. Almost. This needs to come out and in. Yeah, there we go. It's almost like some of the bony structures on Psittacosaurus skulls. All right, we got to get that other tooth in there. I forgot I added that tooth. Tooth as in serrated part of the jaw, because there aren't teeth because there are no bones. Haha, no bones. Alrighty. So we just got a little bit more to do with our basic inks. See, part of what's nice about, again, having your stabilization off is you can get these fun, super organic, jittery lines. Like, you give up a bit of control, and in doing so, you make some beautiful art. Isn't that just how life is? You know, sometimes you gotta let go in order to move on. And this has been Deep Life Lessons with Marcus. Right? I love Psittacosaurus so much. It's awesome. It's actually one of the main inspirations for one of the types of dragons in Heaven's Hymn in my comic series. There are 5 different dragon clans, and each like dragon clan design is based off of one of the. This is going to surprise absolutely nobody. Based off of one of the 5 main like clades of dinosaurs. So because dinosaurs they split into 2 main groups, right? You have Saurischia and Ornithischia or Ornithischia. It's probably the more common way to pronounce it. And the lizard-hipped and bird-hipped dinosaurs. Greatest irony being that birds are lizard-hipped dinosaurs because they descend from the Saurischians. Therefore, they are Saurischians, and it's a wonderful point of convergent evolutions. So, but yeah, so each dinosaur clan, not dinosaur, each dragon clan is designed after one of these 5 main dinosaur clades, and inspired by like one of the 5 traditional Chinese elements. So we get the fire, earth, water, metal, and wood. Right? There's no air in the traditional Chinese elements, which is interesting and fun. But yeah, so each dragon clan has one of these elements and has one of the dinosaur clades. So we have fire, who's based off of the theropods, which are the 2-legged, generally carnivorous, meat-eating dinosaurs, right? Your T-Rexes, your Allosaurus, your raptors, your birds are theropods. And then the wood dragons are based off of sauropods, which are the long-necked dinosaurs, and are the other branch within Saurischia, because that's split into 2. And then Ornithischia split into 3. So the other ones, we have the Thyreophorans, which are the armored dinosaurs like Stegosaurus and Ankylosaurus, those guys. And in the comic, those are the ones that the Earth dragons are inspired by. We have the Marginocephalians, which are the horned dinosaurs. So that includes the ceratopsians like Triceratops. It also includes Psittacosaurus, like we were talking about earlier, as well as the Pachycephalosaurs, which are the head buddy guys, bipedal friends with the dome heads. And so the last one then is the ornithopods, which are like your hadrosaurs, iguanodonts, a lot of the other like herbivorous dinosaurs that you have in there, and it's a good time. So the fire dragons are designed after theropods. The wood dragons are based on sauropods. The Earth dragons are based on Thyreophorans, the armored guys. The metal dragons are based off of the Marchinocephalians, the Ceratopsians, the horned dragons. And then the water dragons are based off of the ornithopods. And that's them. I've only have like one presentable design really fleshed out, which is the fire dragons. But that's also because the first dragon we meet is a fire dragon, and we don't meet any other dragons for a hot second after that. But eventually, we will see like all of the different like dragon clans and dragon types. Um, Ceratopsians are metal. They're also of the like the five big clades. I love Ceratopsians. I'm a big fan. Um, Especially because for the most part, it's like all we have are their heads, and their heads are all really different and bizarre. Designing the metal dragon though, so I've got I brought it up because Psittacosaurus came up, and I don't remember who brought it up. It was probably me, um, but I had done so many iterations trying to figure out how to make a Ceratopsian look like a dragon without looking like I was just taking a dragon and sticking on a Triceratops head, kind of a thing, or like it was something that came straight out of specifically Monster Hunter, which has phenomenal creature designs, but that's not the design philosophy that we have in Heaven's Hymn, and so I don't want it to look like that's a very Monster Hunter type creature because again, while the designs in Monster Hunter for the most part are really good, there are some really bad ones too, but the that's not what I'm going for with Heaven's Hymn, right? And so I did a lot of doing that, looking at like more derived Ceratopsian skulls, and then I looked at a Psittacosaurus skull, and I was like, what if instead of focusing on these like brow horns or nasal horns like we see with the Ceratopsians, the more derived Ceratopsians, we focus on the jugal horns, which are the cheek horns. So if you look at a picture of Psittacosaurus, they don't have any horns or even a frill, but they have these big old jugal horns. And I was like, that's a cool look. Also because it can mimic a lot of temnospondyle amphibians, I believe was the group, that have a bunch of wild head shapes that look like arrowheads or pickaxes and stuff, and they're super cool. So anyway, that has been our dinosaur moment. Thank you for tuning in. Join me next week where I will also probably go on an unprompted rant about dinosaurs and or my comic. I mean, especially since next week I'm planning on doing dinosaur art. I will be talking a lot about dinosaurs. Speaking of, does anybody have any like dinosaur requests that they'd want to see me like illustrate? Temnospondals are cool. We do love, honestly, just prehistoric life. Life in general is fascinating. Sometimes I meet people who are like, yeah, I don't care much about learning or animals. Like, they're just not interesting. And I don't know if I'll ever understand those people because, like, the world around us is so beautiful and so fascinating. And, like, I mean, I said this last time on stream, but like, I don't think anyone has ever made anything or designed anything that's as interesting or compelling as the natural world, like we synthesize, we parrot, we get inspired by, but nothing that we make will ever compare to just the natural beauty of nature, but maybe I'm a hippie for saying that. Actually, no. I don't think. Firstly, I don't think it would be bad if I were a hippie, and secondly, I don't think that like that should be a super out there take. um, Okay, I'm trying to reference the little Batman action figure that I have right here for my Batman. I think he only has 3 of these little spiky guys. They get progressively bigger. Yeah, like that. Yeah. There we go again, quoting Tipper Pines. Phenomenal show. If any of you haven't seen Gravity Falls, you should go do that as soon as this is done because it's great. It's also all on YouTube for free, I found, which is fantastic for me because it's a great show to watch while I do art because I've already seen it multiple times and it never ceases to make me laugh. I actually had a story idea once based like very much inspired by Gravity Falls that I might still make into something someday. Though this story, if people want to hear it, does have some background before I can get to the premise of the story concept that I had. So when Becca and I were first married, for her parents' 25th anniversary, they wanted to take her and I and Becca's sister and her husband on a trip to Cancun because they had gone like the year before, and they're like, for our anniversary, we really want to like take people with us and like share the incredible experiences that we had. And it, the we went right, and when in the Houston airport, Becca had her purse stolen, and the purse had her wallet, her passport, everything. And so when we boarded the plane and they let us on, they didn't check her passport, the plane to Mexico, which of course they need to do. So we landed in Cancun at 10 p.m. and they couldn't let her through customs because she didn't have her passport because it was stolen. And so they couldn't let her into the country. But the rest of us could get in because we all had our passports and stuff. And we weren't, so they detained Becca in what she calls has affectionately named the Mexican airport jail, which was spooky because Becca does not speak Spanish. I was the only person on this trip who spoke Spanish, which you don't need to if you're like to visit Mexico, but it certainly is helpful when negotiating with um, border authorities and trying to understand what's going on and let your wife know why she can't come into the country. No, I mean she knew because she didn't have the welcome, Rachel, because she didn't have her passport, of course. So, like she knew why she couldn't come in, but it was still super spooky. Anyway, we weren't allowed to stay with her. They sent her back on a plane back to the Houston airport the next morning, where she proceeded to have a whole bunch of adventures, which I'll let her tell that story maybe in another stream. And I ended up spending a week in Cancun with my in-laws after like a month after we got married as the only Spanish speaker. So I kind of became like the unofficial tour guide because I could like talk to people better and like get us around to places. It was good. They were really good and like did a great job, welcoming me into the family and everything. But it was very sad, and there were lots of times where I was really sad because again, Becca was detained and deported, which was super stressful and scary. And so in the evenings, I would watch what they had on TV at the resort, which was Disney XD, and they're doing a bunch of Gravity Falls reruns. So I watched a lot of Gravity Falls, which was really nice. I also ate a lot of fajitas, which was also nice. I love Mexican food, specifically good Mexican food. Um, but yeah, anyway, so I had this idea for a story, which is kind of some Gravity Falls energy, with a lot of like cryptids and stuff, where it takes place in this like, yeah, the Houston airport is not our favorite airport. There's a lot that went wrong with everything there. It was bad. Fortunately, they didn't make us pay for Becca's flight home or anything, so that was nice. But still, um, but yeah. So the story idea that I had though was that there's like this disgruntled park ranger um, in like Vermont who like he had gone off to college, but he ended up coming back and like dropping out because the like family stuff at home was a little rough, so he had to come back and um, come back home to the small town in Vermont, and he's doing his forest rangery stuff when this chick from out of town who has like a cryptid slash supernatural slash monster hunting podcast shows up with like her van full of eccentric gear, and she ropes him into going on all of these like cryptid hunting adventures, um, and like they have a good time. It's a cute little romance story at the end eventually, but like we find out a bunch of stuff like the park ranger's best friend, who is a hippie who lives out in the woods, is literally a werewolf. They meet Mothman, who is chronically addicted to energy drinks, um, and is a big Jane Austen fan. And I'm trying to remember any other details. It was a while. Oh, one of the other like main characters in the town was like an aliens conspiracy theorist who like wouldn't stop talking about how he got abducted and how he's an alien, but he actually like not how he got abducted and how they like did experiments on him and stuff. But the kicker is that he is actually an alien, right? So he was dumped on Earth because he was so paranoid that the crew of the ship that he was flying with couldn't stand him, and so they wiped his memory, disguised him as a human, and dumped him on Earth. And so his vague memories of in like meeting the aliens, but it was actually his own crew, dumping him and such. And so he might be my favorite character from the whole idea. I haven't done anything for it for years, but it's it's a fun idea that might get made someday after I finish Heaven's Hymn. But yeah. Um, oh, and I think the werewolf hippie guy ends up like dating a literal tree, like a dryad, and so he's a literal like tree hugger and then some because his girlfriend is a tree. Girlfriend slash boyfriend slash non-binary individual. I never got quite that far. But yeah, so it doesn't exist anywhere. If you scroll back on my Instagram far enough, you'll find old art that I did for it, and I made a little like short like webtoon style comic years ago for it, because Becca was excited and wanted to see more of the story. Um, that yeah, I made that, and again, it kind of never really went anywhere. In part because it's a lot of work to make a comic, and I'm already busy making one. But I would like to make that one. I have a lot of story ideas that I would love to do. One of it's just a normal tree. That would be hilarious. No like sexy tree spirit, just a tree. Um, yeah, that would be iconic. Okay, here's Batman for scale. Time to go in and do my detail inks. And then once I'm done with these, we'll get on to color. And hopefully these don't take very long because I'm going to do some beautiful bucket filling for certain parts. Ugh, we love a bucket fill tool that actually works, unlike Photoshop. But, oh, shoot. There we go. Okay. There's Batman. Woo! Delightful. Okay. Yeah. I don't think I'll ever run out of stories to tell. That's the curse of being a writer who is doing this because they love to do it and not, to make money or such. But yeah, I have a bunch of other story ideas if people would like to hear that. I'm not sure. People seemed excited about the. Oh, actually, last thing about the cryptid story. It's called Just Another Night because I thought it, like, oh, it's just another night while Bigfoot and Mothman and all these other cryptids and stuff are going around and doing things. Yeah. Okay. So actually, that's a great. You mentioned paneling. Paneling is comics are a wild thing because also good luck on your comic, Rachel. It sounds cool. It is a lot. um, but yeah, so comics are really fascinating because there's a whole craft to them that is really uniquely applicable to comics, right? You get some in like pacing and shots that with like storyboard, and you get some in like children's books if you practice, learning that or you get training there. But like paneling specifically is a beast unique to comics that is, I mean, you can do it pretty simply and effectively, but you can also do a lot of very interesting stuff with it. And knowing the basic mechanics is really important. Because like if you don't have to do anything super like revolutionary or groundbreaking to have good paneling, but bad paneling will ruin a comic. It can make it nigh into unreadable. Because the whole idea with paneling is what you're doing is you're curating a reading experience for your audience, right? If you want resources for paneling and just comics in general, if you haven't read either of Scott McCloud's books, Making Comics and Understanding Comics, I think I have one of them over here. I think I have 2 copies of Making Comics. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. This book. I'll make my screen big for a sec. This book, Making Comics by Scott McCloud. Wow, my camera is really bad. This book is so helpful because he goes into not only like the parts that we kind of think of when we think like, oh, I'm making a comic, like character design, drawing backgrounds, which you do need to learn how to do environments. You do need to learn how to do characters. You do need to learn how to stay on model, like all of that. But he also talks about a lot of specifically the like unique things to comics, like paneling and what other ones is like transitions, page flow, incorporating text and like automatopoeia and stuff, which like you don't really have if you're doing a storyboard, right? You don't have to think about the impact that reading this word is going to have. So it's really cool what he does in there. And if people would be interested, I have also similarly to like the live stream that I did last week, I've made a workshop thing with one of my buddies. I can bring him on here from my comic collective about like paneling and page layouts and all of that jazz for comics. Junji Ito is really good when it comes to his paneling. Honestly, manga in general, I like to reference a lot of manga for the paneling, if for anything, because of the way that it's structured as a smaller format. There's a lot more creative uses of paneling that we get to in some cases, not always, and this is no way universal, right? There's plenty of trashy manga and there's plenty of really good manga. But it is interesting. One of the things that in I don't remember if it's in Making Comics or Understanding Comics that Scott breaks down is the different ways that the 3 big comic industries break down panels and break down transitions and like which kinds of transitions they use more of, which kinds of shots they use, how close up, how far back, and one of the big ones that you see is that manga uses a lot more. They have generally will have fewer big like removed panels and big panels with lots of different text in it. Whereas like if you look at like the French comics and French comic industry, they have lots of big, expansive pages and with lots of detail in them, because manga almost works more like storyboard than American comics and like French comics do, in that like it prioritizes a lot of the different aspects that we see in storyboarding, like specific shots, and like the general overall flow of the story over necessarily like really good visual art. Whereas like if you look at French comics, oftentimes the focus is more on like, this is a piece of art. Again, these are big generalizations. You'll find exceptions in everything. But like, here, I can give some examples from my collection right here really quick once I finish these. I want to get to coloring Craig. I'm so close to being done with the inks, but I keep getting distracted, guys. Come on. Here, maybe I'll show some examples once I'm done with the inks. I'll set that as a little reward. I can go on a little tangent once I finish my details. Which again is mostly just adding little textural elements and, detailing some like volumetric stuff. But yeah, I'll talk to my friend and see if we can get him on in a week or two to do that workshop, because he's actually the one who gave me the idea to start streaming initially. Like years ago, we talked about doing like live streams together, because we get together and we just have like long conversations about lots of stuff. And we're like, I'm sure someone would like to listen to this, about Superman, about comics. Often, it almost always goes back to Superman. We both are big Superman fans, in part because up until very recently, there was not a lot of super great recent media representations of Superman as a character, which led to a lot of people being like, I think he's dumb and boring and lame. And we were like, no, it's because you don't understand the whole point of Superman. Have I tried doing any 3D stuff? I have. I've played around in Blender before. I'm not super great with Blender. I don't know it super well. I've played with ZBrush. ZBrush is really complicated. I would say in no ways, I'm very much still a noob at ZBrush, but I enjoy it. And I've done a lot of like hand sculpting. I can show you guys right now. I think I'm done with my detailings finally. So we'll go on a little break for a sec. I'm currently working on this little guy. This is just with Super Sculpey, polymer clay. It's a Troodontid. We got like tail fan. So he's gonna have legs and stuff, but I haven't worked on him for a sec, and the camera cannot capture any of the detail really. But I've done a few other sculptures, like I did this guy for my capstone. This is the Bonra. It's a creature from Heaven's Hymn. If you've read the comic, you'll recognize our spooky horse friend. But yeah, so I sculpted this for my capstone, because the capstone was my, finishing and then crowdfunding and printing out my first book, the first volume of Heaven's Hymn. And I figured I'd make something fun for the display. ZBrush is a lot of fun. I'm still learning. I have a friend who's helping me figure stuff out over at Creative Bee Studios, the company that I'm working for. And he offered to help 3D print some like a sculpt that I did, so that I can sell them for like at FanX and other conventions. And he emailed me today. It was like, well, so your file is super weird and the mesh is all messed up. And I was like, I don't even know what any of these words mean. I just got the free trial and doinked around. So it's a good time. But yeah, I would love to do that. Okay, quick comic deviation, kind of what I was talking about. So for manga, right, I've got Delicious in Dungeon, which I love. I need to finish getting all of them. So like we have some environment shots, but they don't tend to be super like as detailed. We have a lot of like when you have a big detail shot, it tends to be bigger character details, right? So we have the big old dragon. And like the use of implied environment is really good in manga. Like, man, I wish my camera would pick this up. You're probably not seeing anything that is legible. Maybe if I pull it back, not a great example. You can't see it super well, but if you pick up a lot of manga, you'll see a lot of similar things. You look at American comic books, especially of late, they tend to prioritize sometimes almost working in contrast to manga, right, where you tend to have like one or two speech panel bubbles per panel. If you look at like I've got my collection of old Batman right here. If you look at like this page, there's a ton of text here, big old speech bubbles, lots of like multiple speech bubbles in there, and so there's an evolution, right? And some comic creators are like, yeah, more text is great, more text is fine. I tend to lean pretty light on the text when I do it. I really like the unique experience of reading a book that feels like watching a film almost. But like if you look at this is a French comic, the Ungalia, the God Network. It's really cool. It's a dinosaur sci-fi. But if you look, almost all of the pages have like full environments to them. Like almost all of the panels. I think this is the only one that has like a flat environment, right? And so we have a lot more wider shots. Like, in these two pages, this is the closest we get to our character. Which, comparing that to the manga, we were almost always we were like up close with our characters. And so it's just interesting to see. Okay, that tangent over. Back to coloring. I'm gonna color so fast, in part because I'm hungry and would like to eat dinner. Okay, so I work in Clip Studio. Oh, okay. I thought you were telling me to go outside. I was like, Becca, I'm streaming. Okay, so I use Clip Studio Paint, which used to be called Manga Studio. It's made specifically for comics, which is awesome. But right now, I'm just using the Magic Wand tool to make a big selection of all the negative space. I'm going to invert that, Control-Shift-I. So now I've selected all of the positive space. Now I just come over and make a clipping mask. And then I can come in here with a color. We're going to start, I think, for Craig, I want a cool greenish gray. Like we're gonna start with a lighter tone, cool greenish gray color. And I can just get my big old pen, and because of the clipping mask, all of the negative space I can't draw in, which is great. Now, as you can see, it didn't there were some gaps in the line work, which is fine because I don't want to have fully connected lines. You can't get as much expression. Ooh, Spanish moss. Yeah, we love plants. And I think that works really well with the concept, right? Like, I think Craig would want to camouflage, Like, I don't think Craig's out here, standing in the open for all to see all the time. I'm thinking we might want to go with like a light, warm pinkish for the tail tip. I think that would look really pretty and be a nice contrast to the green. Which I think would look really good. So yeah, so we're just gonna do flat colors. I'm not gonna render anything. We're just gonna do flat colors today. Okay. Hello? Oh, Clip Studio has been loading. Ooh. Yeah, no, if to put Craig in an environment, yeah, we could definitely surround him with the Spanish moss. I think that would look really good. I'm definitely gonna keep him here in the void. But actually, at the size Craig is at, it would honestly be kind of surprising if there wasn't moss or fungi somewhere growing on him. Like you look at whales, they always have barnacles. You look at elephants, even they're always parasites. on all these large animals. And especially if this is like a case of like mutualism, I think it would make a lot of sense for there to be little mossy guys. You guys are gonna make me have to draw more mushroomy things. Dang it. Because I really like that idea. Well, now that I've built up my mask, right, I'm actually going to come back to my inks because I really like this moss idea, like having some moss and mushrooms growing on different parts. Yeah, how dare you, Rachel? Okay, we're gonna just get some little guys and some like groupies because the kind of way I was like, Craig also probably spends a lot of time sitting and waiting, isn't necessarily the most active of animals. So we're gonna, oh yeah, oh that's the stuff. Get that nice drippy hangy moss. What's cool too is like the use of the moss adds age to the creature, and to the design, which is an interesting like look to him for sure. It's also looking a little like licheny, which we love a good lichen. This is actually great because I didn't know how I wanted to color Craig, and so having like this idea is super awesome because now I'm like, oh yeah, we can have these different like parts of like the deeper green over this kind of lighter green, creature. I'm gonna extend you down, have a bit of like a hangy situation. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, okay. That is dope. I think that looks so cool. Okay, I'm also going to add some mushrooms, just some little guys. Really leaning into the detritivore vibes, If ooh, John Bauer moss. I haven't seen John Bauer's mosses and lichens. I should look into that. Ooh, we're gonna have some like oyster mushrooms growing right here. Yeah. One of the few things that is sad about where Beck and I are at in Utah is that there's not really a lot of good like mushroom foraging. There was one time we were camping and found two giant puffball mushrooms, which are safe to eat, and they're about the size of our heads, like they're this big, and they were delicious. we made like mushroom fries out of them, which was awesome. But yeah, we love the idea of eating mushrooms, but not like dangerous ones or hallucinogenic ones. Just like happy little guys in the woods. It was funny, because we were out looking for mushrooms. Every time we're looking, we'll find some, and they'll just be a big old chomp out of it, and we're like, some deer came in and was just like, oh, and it's always delightful to see like where animals have taken big old bites out of stuff. Okay, that I think is going to do us for the mushrooms. Just going to expand my mask a little bit. Boop. That's the nice thing about using a clipping mask like this is if you go in, you can expand and like edit the silhouette. Yeah, I know they look really. It feels like we're leaning into some Dark Soulsy territory here. which I'm not upset about. You know, this feels like some ancient being that you've stumbled across, which, sometimes there are animals like that. Like, Greenland sharks live for hundreds and hundreds of years. I think they found one that was like 450 years old or something, which is insane. Because, Homie was around back when Shakespeare was around, like it's just crazy. Craig is way too nice to be a Dark Souls creature. Yeah, he'd probably be like, if there were intelligence to Craig, I feel like he'd be like a wise sage of the swamp sage, kind of a thing. But I don't know that I want this to feel like this is some intelligent creature, just like old. I do think old is cool, and also swamp. It's giving big swamp, which I love. My throat is getting dry because I have been talking for an hour and a half, but I wouldn't have it any other way. The Uintas, oh yeah, the Uintas is beautiful, but yeah, most everywhere else is too dry. I love the Uintas. Okay. Before I get too far into coloring, one thing that is like as a bit of advice for like, um, for doing like viz dev and creature designs when you're like presenting things is to put them like do more than just like have them on like a white canvas, because when it's just on a white canvas, not only does it look boring, and this is not to say that everything has to be not on a white canvas, but it can make the color work, especially in your values, harder to discern. We're sporadically watching games. I hope the other day that everything Souls like it was cursed somehow. I haven't actually played Dark Souls or Elden Ring. I have this wonderful relationship with video games where I will be interested in one frequently, and I will watch content about it. I will listen to the music, and I will look at all the art, and I will never play it. Which is nothing against the game itself. It's just time is hard to find sometimes. Okay, I think we're gonna go with this beauty, maybe lighter, but I want it saturated. Oh, hi, Tybalt. I don't know if you guys could hear that, but Tybalt just came in from the catio. Do you have a lot to say? He has a lot to say, apparently. Uh-huh. Yeah, here he is. Do you want to come say hi to the stream? Tybalt, come here. We're gonna say hi. Yeah, come here, bud. Here he is. Hi, buddy. Yeah. He likes to be held like a baby. Okay. Oh, love you, Tybalt. Have a good day. Remember who you are and what you stand for. All right. So this is a bit of a lighter of that green. I think I want to make it more cool. And slightly, I don't know if I want it that great, but more blue, I think, yeah, that's what we're looking for. Deviate a little bit. There we go. Second best boy after Craig. Yeah, I'll have to tell him he's been replaced. All right. Oh, oops. What happened? There we go. Okay. I have not tried Satisfactory. Is that? I'm assuming that's a game. Um, Part of it is I think, ironically, my you neurodivergence manifests in losing interest in video games really quickly. Not that they're bad, just getting distracted. But I also think part of it is that I just love making stuff, and it's hard to make stuff when you're playing a game. Here we go. All right. So we're just making a selection so that I can color this all crazy and not mess up my beautiful wings. It has a critical buff against neurodivergence. Setting up assembly lines. Is it just like a game of like satisfying things? Like, is that the premise? Okay. We're gonna go with kind of a dark reddish brown for the feet, I think. That's too dark. You're gonna come up. Something like this. I think that's pretty cool. Give them little socks. To build a factory. It's giving me similar energy to like Zoo Tycoon, which I played a lot as a kid. I loved Zoo Tycoon. I haven't played it for a while, but I imagine I would still enjoy it quite a bit if I did. That is almost the same color that I'm coloring with. That is like exactly the same color. Okay, we're gonna do this. Yeah. So I think I want the head. I'm gonna bring in all these cool tones, right? And then I'm gonna bring in a lot of warm tones, I think, after on top of this like base of cool tones, because I think that's going to do a lot for making the moss stand out. But maybe I don't want the moss to stand out that much. Maybe I want it to feel more integrated. Hi, Tybalt. What are you doing? Oh, that's my tablet. Hi, bud. You can't. His head is just off screen. That's my laptop. Don't bite it. Okay. All right. So I think I'm gonna. I kind of like this cool dusty color. It reminds me of a lot of like lichens and stuff that I've seen. And the one question is, does it feel swamp or does it feel more like too arid? No, I think we can still get swamp because we got this beautiful, rich kind of burgundy guy. Whoa, that's a lot of conveyor belts. I think I want to keep this on the limbs, but we're gonna darken you. I think I want to make this a little lighter, honestly. It's a bit dark because one of the other things to consider if you're ever doing like a design like this is the way you use value is important, but also if the source color or the local color of whatever it is that you're making is too dark or too light, it can make it hard to do lighting on top of that. And it can obscure the actual design, especially if you're doing something that isn't rendered like I am. It can obscure things, which is like part of the reason for putting a more like mid-tone in the background, right? Is just because when you have the super high contrast, it can make things a little harder to discern. We're gonna, I think these stripy legs. I don't know. What do you guys think about the stripy legs? Oh, good. My swamp palette is working. I'm not sure I'm feeling the stripy legs. I don't know if that's it. I'm wondering what patterns. Yeah, it kind of looks like a birch tree, which is kind of the thought that I had. I think I want there to be stripes. I just don't know if I want there to be that many, you know? Like make them a bit thicker. So it feels less like a tiger, you know? And more like banding. Okay, I like this. Okay, so I think what I'm gonna include in the face is some pretty light, almost white tones. That's interesting. I think that's fun, and then we can have it come through, follow the curve of the body, and just have some random shapes of it. You know, kind of striping through, because this would break up some silhouette. Oh, no, he just happy. No, almost model. I do think what I should do with this is what I'm going to do right now is grab my airbrush and lighten, like have it fade more into the legs going up so it's not quite as stark. You know? Yeah, something like that. That's nice. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm loving the tears under the eyes. Oh, that's not the color I wanted to select. There we go. What I should probably do before too long is throw down my noise layer, because what that does is it just automatically makes everything look a lot more finished than it is, which helps, because sometimes I think, especially if you're doing like a flat VizDev piece, where if you don't have any texture, it can be really hard to discern or like to feel like it's a finished piece. Oh, I should not do that. Come back here, you. Okay, gonna deselect. Yeah, I think the brown on the legs is really working, especially with the fade coming in. Okay, we're gonna do this guy. We're gonna, no, we're going smaller than that. Not quite that small. There we go. So yeah, I'm applying a noise filter, and then what I'm gonna do is make it a lower opacity. I usually make them 12% opacity and set it to overlay. Because what it's gonna do is now, as we go in, we can see there's some grit and some texture. I think I actually want to make it a little bit more prominent. Yeah, and so that just makes it feel a lot more finished than it did before. White patches behind the eyes like a spot. Ooh, I like that. That's cool. Well, especially if we want to like work for like an intimidation kind of a tactic. For Craig here, right? Because we established Craig is not necessarily the hunter, but might be the hunted. Yeah, one thing that I found helpful when doing creature design palettes is like to choose a base color, right? And then choose a few supporting colors that you can work in, usually a lighter and a darker one, and then like one that you can fade in. So I'm actually gonna do that right now. I think I'm gonna get a slight yellowish tone for the underbelly that's going to be lighter, and give Craig a little bit of counter shading. Because especially if Craig's flying, doesn't want to be seen all the time. Okay, we got this guy. Boom. We're gonna grab more orangey, I think. Let's try this. Oh, I will definitely send him in the Discord when he's done. If you want to make him in Blender, that would be dope. I would be in awe. I should learn Blender, if for anything, because ZBrush is crazy expensive. As much as I enjoy using it, it's hard to learn a tool if you can't afford to use it, like to have it, you know? That's kind of a fun grading. It's not giving swamp as much anymore with the yellow. It feels almost tropical, which is really interesting. But I don't know if the yellow is what I'm feeling with that. Okay, maybe for the underside. Maybe we go with the more pinkish to kind of tie in the tail a little bit. This is interesting. Okay. Thoughts on the pinkish? I kind of dig that. I'm going to get a much darker tone of this guy. And work him in just a little bit up in here. Nope, not that. Yeah, I like the pink, right? Okay. So now what I think I'm going to do is grab my brown and bring it up in a few select spots. Maybe some little lines coming in around the eye. Nope, that's not it. I want to differentiate the head somehow. How? Yeah, right. I want to bring in some darker tones into the body. I'm just not entirely sure how I want to do that. Because I could bring in some shapes of this brown. Maybe like grab this guy and like have it kind of follow some of the like lighter shapes through. That's kind of interesting. I don't know how patterned I want to make it. Let me see with my airbrush if I can just get some nice gradation. I feel like it's looking a little muddy now, you know? Ooh, that, I like that, bring the brown in between the body sections. That is a great idea. See, what's awesome is it's like, you know, people always have good ideas. even, it's so important as a creative to involve other people, because people have great ideas and sometimes you don't. That's kind of, I like that a lot. I think we bring brown in at the base of the wings, and then I do think a little brown stripe following the white stripes, kind of like that. I'm not sure. I'm wondering if maybe I want to make the whole head this white, and really make it stand out. Oh, that, okay. Okay. Yeah, so it's part of the carapace, right? I'm kind of digging this like almost skull looking head. It kind of brings in some of the vulture elements to, like, visually, in reminding us of scavengers. And then I can bring in some of these greens and grayish blues. Maybe spot it and around the horn. Let me grab this green. Brown is a gradient in the tail segment as it gets further. Ooh, I like that a lot. I think yeah, well, and that, echoes the patterns that we're getting in the legs. I think that that's it. Cubone, we love Cubone. Our beautiful trauma Pokemon. Okay. So once I get the main colors figured out, it's a pretty. Actually, no, that's not what I want to do. This is what I want to do. It's going to be pretty smooth sailing, doing the rest of it. But I just gotta do it, you know. We're going to deselect this guy. Whoop. Okay, here we go. Gradient and gradient. I really like that. I think that's really cool. I honestly might want to bring some more of that gradation up into here. Yeah, right? Like I like the kind of skullish motif. I'm gonna bring some of this brown up in here. Just a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we got it. I'm gonna get a slightly lighter color for the wings. Just so they stand out a bit more. And then we gotta color the mosses. And I can color Batman. And then I think we're done. I don't know if I'm gonna finish coloring all of them on the stream. I'll do that later. But it's just things take time. You know. There we go. Okay, I'm digging these lighter wings. Ooh, the claws also be. Yes, the claws should be white. I agree. Very, very good thought there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, he coming wrong color. He coming together. Okay. All right. I'm gonna move on to coloring these mosses. I get a nice cool green. Make it a little darker and grayer. Not cool enough. There we go. That looks like what we want. And then we'll just color these guys in. And okay. Oh, and Clip Studio is saving for a sec. It's the autosave. Oh, we're up to 9 people. Last I looked, we only had 4 people. I'm glad more people are here. Welcome. Yippee! Okay. Well, while I'm finishing this, so next week I was planning on doing a dinosaur illustration, maybe doing one of those once a month. Also secretly the scheme to use you guys on the stream as accountability to practice my paleo art and build that portfolio, because I would like to get paleo art jobs and do more stuff in that sphere. Yeah, so if anybody's any dinosaur like requests that you'd like me to draw for next week, and pop them in the chat, I'll include them in the poll so that it's an option. There aren't really any. I'm trying to think if there are any that I would not want to draw. I mean, we've already established my favorites are certain theropods and the ceratopsians, but I'm a big fan of ankylosaurs, and I think I've drawn the least ornithopods. I should draw more ornithopods. Ooh, Dimetrodon's good. Hey, not a dinosaur, but still paleo art. I drew a Dimetrodon forever ago. It would be a good one to revisit. Especially where there's a lot of room for speculation with just how close these early synapsids were to where mammals ended up, right? Especially when it comes to looking at like fleshy tissue on the face, right? Because mammals are super weird because we got a bunch of cartilaginous bits on our face with our ears and our noses and stuff. And so there's a question that I know researchers have been looking into with Dimetrodon and other early synapsids of like how much of that was there. Dilophosaurus is also my favorite. I'll show you guys what the Fire Clan dragons look like in Heaven's Hymn, because they're very Dilophosaurus inspired. I love Dilophosaurus. Fantastic one. I actually sculpted one earlier this year. I can show you guys in a minute as well, if you would like to see. But yeah, Dilophosaurus is always a good pick. Glad to know people have taste in the chat. As if like there's a wrong dinosaur to like, you know. Victoria Crown pigeon, let's go. Honestly, pigeons are such underrated animals. It's so stupid that people think that they're gross, because I think they're really pretty and just cool. Beck and I had a great time with all the pigeons when we went to New York earlier this year. We love our fluffy friends. Dude. All right. Last bit of moss, and then it's just the mushrooms, which I'm gonna grab kind of an orangey cream for. Hi, Tybalt. Uh-huh. You sure have a lot to say today. I wonder if he saw something on the catio. Was there a bird? Was there a Victoria Crown pigeon? Don't think we have them here, unfortunately. That would be dope. The other thing I could work on next week, and this would just be doing homework during the live, but I'm volunteering with an organization here in Utah to help protect the Great Salt Lake. It's called Grow the Flow, and the idea is like pushing to get more water in the Great Salt Lake, and I'm helping them table at an event that's coming up, not this weekend but the next, and I wanted to try and get a zine about the Great Salt Lake done, because that way I can give it out and we can promote it. I wonder if my old college will let me use their printer still, because it's free. And do you know what we say when things are free? Yippee! But yeah, I should do that. Yeah, Tibble, you are a little attention whore, aren't you? Yeah, he's worse when Becca's here. I think part of the reason he loves her so much is actually goes back to the passport story from earlier, because we had just barely gotten him as a kitten when we left. Like, we had him for 3 days when we left on the trip. And so he was at my parents' house for the one day before Becca got home, and she was, sad and lonely, and he was a 3-week-old kitten who really should have been with his mom at this point in his life, and so they were just sad together. And I think he's been very attached to her ever since. Some macaroni. No, he can't eat the cheese. He shouldn't. Okay. All right, I think I might call that a night for coloring Craig. I love this. I really like how this color scheme worked out. Thank you guys for working on him with me. I'll get the other two colored. I'll get him a nice little name. Enjoy the Batman for reference. And I'll shoot this in the Discord, Lucci, so that you can model him if you want to. That would be awesome. Maybe I can even see if my buddy can 3D print him and I can sell Craig's. If that would be cool with people, if we get a model, I would also definitely pay if I'm making any money from anybody's model that they are making. I do not intend to ever use anybody's work for profit and not pay them for it, because that sucks. That's what evil people do. Okay, really quickly, because I said I was going to show you guys, let me pull up the Dilophosaurus dragon before we are done, because I think it's really cool, and it's one of my well, Batman's always looking good. Okay, let's see, where are you? Here he is. Yeah, so Dragons of Clan Mandrakal. This is what... Oh, wait, I'm not sharing the screen. I'm going to stop sharing that screen. Let me present. Do an image file. Oh, I can present an image file. That's cool. Well, let me grab it for you guys. And... no worries. If it's not... Oh, okay. Well, let me just share the window then. Yeah, if you can't make it 3D printable, that's okay. I'm A-okay with that. Like, it would be cool, but also no pressure or anything at all. Okay, so this is the dragon design that I did for Heaven Sent. These are the fire dragons, and yeah, very Dilophosaurus inspired. It is one of my favorite dinosaurs. I like to say I have like 4 favorite dinosaurs, like very favorites, right? And who knows, it might change. Currently, I've been really into Concavenator and as Troodon, which might be a valid genus again, if not Latinovenatrix. We'll see what happens with that. Utahraptor, Diabloceratops. Wait, no. So the 4 that are the codified ones. There's Utahraptor, Diabloceratops, Dilophosaurus, and Pachyrhinosaurus. But I've really been into like Psittacosaurus lately. I love me Psittacosaurus and some other guys. But yeah, so this is the fire dragon design. Trying to make still fantastical, but also like believable dragons, right? They're not fully like this is a speculative evolution dragon going on, but also not like speculative evolution to the is completely forgotten and abandoned here, right? I particularly like Walking on the Wings. I just think it makes sense when we look throughout natural history at the largest creatures to ever fly were Ashdark and pterosaurs, right? And chances are that they were able to get so big and still fly because they walked with their like they could use the same muscles to fly and to move around on the ground. So that is part of the thought there is like if this is a bigger creature that's flying, maybe the same muscles are being used. I love pterosaurs. If we're not going non-dinosaur, like Hatzegopteryx is phenomenal. I'm just talking about my favorite dinosaurs now. I should probably end the stream, in part because I am starving. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And thank you guys for appreciating and helping out with Craig. I will shoot him into the Discord once I finish coloring the other two parts of the design, and it'll be up on my Instagram for sure. And we'll plan on doing some paleo art next week. I'll include Dilophosaurus and Dimetrodon in the poll and make sure I reach out to as many people as I can for that. Yeah, if you're subscribed to the YouTube, it'll be in the community page there. I'll also probably have something in my Instagram stories, just because I know that sometimes people aren't on all of the things. Yeah, I'll link to the Discord. So the Discord that people are talking about is not actually my Discord. It's for my wife's YouTube channel, A Brush with Becca. I could see if she could send a link to the Discord. Ironically, I don't have admin, right? So I can't send invite links to that one. But if people want, I can also make my own Discord for my own, like for those who are Marcus native, I guess, who are part of my Discord and not like following me through Becca, but also like discovered me through my own efforts and such. Because I know that there are plenty of people who are in my audience who are not in Becca's audience as well. But also, if you're not in Becca's audience, you should be, because she is incredible. If you like art and art history, especially, and also just fun, goofy times, you should subscribe to A Brush with Becca on YouTube. It's great. But yeah, would people like join and be involved if I made a Discord going on here? That would make doing polls and such easier. To reach out to audience members and stuff. Yeah. The Marcus Becca Venn diagram was a circle. Okay, I'll see if I can get something set up. I'll look into that. I do not have one right now, but I have other servers, but they're for like my comic collective, which I should do a plug for. We're trying to build to do more online stuff and have a wider reach so that people can join the collective even if they're not local, But if you're interested in making comics and want to join the collective, we make comics together. We do a bunch of stuff like that. The biggest thing we've done, I can show you guys this, is we made if I can get it without knocking things off my shelf. We made a graphic novel anthology, which is in a magical summer camp with a bunch of creatures and monsters and stuff. So there's 8 short stories in here. If people want the book, we'll be selling it at FanX if you want to come see us. And if you want to be involved with a local or just like independent comic community or our collective, message me on Instagram would probably be the best way to get involved. But I'll speak more about it once we're ready to do more like bigger online stuff and build a bigger community, because right now there's like 15 of us just here in my city. So it's yeah, hopefully I'll talk more about it, and maybe I'll even have more people from the collective on the stream, and we can help promote things or talk about things and have a good time. But yeah, thank you all for being here. If there is a Discord server, I'll definitely be posting about it on all my social media stuff, so keep your eyes out for that. And yeah, I will see you guys next week for some beautiful paleo art. Take care. Boop, there we go. Okay, thank you guys. Yeah, no, Rachel, if you want to message me on Instagram, it's just Marcus Comics with the same. I don't know if you're following me there already, but yeah, I can get you involved and work out with stuff. But yeah, okay. Anyway, see you guys.